Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication.
And I'm Lilia Simic, also with the Department of Communication. Today, we're going to keep you sharp by focusing on the SHARPS Injury Prevention Program at Michigan Medicine.
Now, before we get into that, sharpen up your knowledge of what's happening in Michigan Medicine by catching up on any episode of The Wrap you may have missed. You can find the shows on your favorite podcast hosting platform or on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel.
With that, let's bring in Dr. Lauren Marquette and Tom Mann. First, can the two of you introduce yourselves and explain your roles in the organization?
Hi, I'm Lauren Marquette. I am a plastic surgeon here at University of Michigan, and I am the surgeon champion for the SHARPS Injury Prevention Program.
And I'm Tom Mann. I'm the Administrative Director for Occupational Health Services and one of the committee members for the SHARPS Injury Prevention Program.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. So let's start very broadly. You've mentioned now the SHARPS Injury Prevention Program. What is it and why is it so important to our staff here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Daniel. You know, the Michigan Medicine has had a high SHARPS rate for several years now when compared to peer institutions in the state of Michigan. And that's not something that we take lightly here, and something that for many years has been a focus at Michigan Medicine. We just haven't really had the formalization around some of the different initiatives that have kind of been rolled out over the past. So in February of 2025, we, in collaboration with the Employee Harm Oversight Committee, they established the SIP program, the SHARPS Injury Prevention Program. And really the whole goal of that is to focus on employee safety and reducing harm and injury. So the team really consists of a multifaceted group of individuals that really focus on institutional awareness, interventions, and building that institutional awareness around culture change that can really impact employee safety.
For staff who may be unaware, what exactly qualifies as a body substance exposure or BSE, and how can staff determine if their injury is one?
That is actually a big recurring problem that we've seen as data is reported throughout the institution over the years. I don't think it's something people think about on a daily basis. And so when you're in a situation where you're confronted with a body substance, it can just be startling and you're not sure if you need to report it or not. So what we did as the SIP team was create a decision tree that we've made into a single page PDF with nice colors and some flow sheets to show you how to tell. Basically, there are some body fluids that are capable of transmitting infectious disease, some that are not. And so we clearly list every body fluid that falls into each category. Red is bad, green is okay. And then some ways in which it can get into your body as opposed to others. So for instance, getting onto your skin is not a problem. Getting into your mouth may be a problem. Getting into your eye may be a problem, that sort of thing. Puncturing through your skin would be a problem. So that's a helpful decision tree that we've been circulating around the hospitals to help people in the moment when they're reporting. And we've also shared the same flyer with the OHS staff who you call when you have a BSE.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into reporting itself. I know that all of our clinicians are incredibly busy on top of seeing patients and dealing with patients and answering emails and checking the portal and MyChart and all sorts of things. The clinical setting can almost be overwhelming at times. Can you sort of talk through the key steps that staff should take when it comes to reporting, why it's so important to report, and sort of what they should expect, as they go through that process?
Yeah, it's when someone experiences an exposure, it can be a real sensitive time and sometimes can be a little bit scary. It's not a normal piece and something we don't want to have happen, of course. And what we found is, the communication piece is the biggest component to really helping to ease that discomfort and some of that process. So we put a lot of information on our OHS webpage. There's a needle stick and SHARPS Injury Prevention Program SharePoint site that contains a ton of information on how to report these things and what you can expect and what questions you're going to be asked so that we can get the best result that we possibly can. But in a nutshell, when someone experiences an exposure, obviously the first thing is to, follow the first aid procedures of the unit and whatnot. But the next thing really needs to be contacting occupational health services. And we're available Monday through Friday, normal business hours, 7 to 5. After hours, we have coverage through the ED and soon to be the ORs, who's going to start managing their own BSEs, which is going to be a huge benefit and create some efficiencies. But once they contact us, that's usually done through the BSE pager. And then the staff, either OHS, ED, or OR, will then help manage that situation for them. And that really revolves around drawing blood from a source patient, getting the results back, and then making sure that we're communicating back to the employee if there are anything, next steps that they might need to take. And I think it's important to note that, most of these exposures don't lead to any negative outcomes. Most of the time, they are pretty benign. They're negative lab results, and we just move on without our normal course of the day. But there are some situations where there are a little bit higher level sensitivities around that, and there needs to be some prophylactic treatment or some other steps that need to be taken to really mitigate the process. And so that's why the timely communication is really important to make sure we get a jump on that.
So going a step further, if you guys were to narrow down one thing that staff should remember about protecting themselves and their coworkers from sharps injuries and body substance exposures, what would that maybe be?
I think the most important takeaway is to have a more general sense of creating a culture of safety. There's not one thing that you can always do that's going to prevent injury. However, if you approach things with universal precautions, always using safety devices when they're available, always wearing protective equipment when applicable, it certainly will decrease your own personal risk. This is also a teaching institution, so it's important to remember to always be talking about safety and to mention it as you're suturing or as you're teaching a procedure, that you're not just teaching how to do the actual procedure that you're learning, but also how to do it in a safe way, how to dispose of equipment at the end of it, and all of those other tiny small things that maybe you don't think about as much anymore, but that are really important for safety. We want to use the same thought that we do for patient safety, which is to first do no harm. And that's always at the forefront of everything we do during patient care. Just as importantly, we should have a do no harm thought process for our learners, for your coworkers who are working with you, alongside you, and for yourself. There's no reason to be injuring anybody else. Just as important as to not injure the patient. So I think having that sense of importance is what you really need in order to prevent injuries.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, the culture of safety is one that really needs to come to the forefront here. And we talk a lot about this on the SIP team meetings, and comparing it to the construction industry. You don't see too many construction workers that walk in without their hard hat. Right. So it's very similar. You should have a mask on, you should have your gloves on, or double gloving, or those things that Dr. Marquette's talked about. Those are all really important. And that cultural piece is really going to be critical as we continue to move forward.
Yeah. And so I love to talk about that cultural piece a little bit. I know that the SIP, team has a lot of work ahead of it, right? Trying to make sure that you do instill that culture. And maybe both of you can leave us with sort of one more thought about that. Lauren, sort of from like a clinical perspective, how do you change that culture, right? How do you instill in these, in team members that they need to take that extra step that maybe they weren't used to taking before? Or, hey, you've got to take 2 minutes and report that BSE that maybe you think nothing of, but you never know. Sort of how do you do that work? And then Tom, maybe from the OHS perspective, you could talk about maybe how to make it easier on that end so that it doesn't seem like so much of a burden.
Yeah, we've taken an approach to get the information transparent and in the hands of the front line. All of the data is available. We have champions in every department of the hospital who can see and review data throughout the whole system, but specifically in their areas. So that was step one. And then going forward, we've been actually going out and talking to different areas who have high incidences of body substance exposures. We get their feedback and then we implement their ideas. For instance, we had some trouble with splashes being very high recently, and we talked to many people in the ORs at all the different OR sites, and we found that we have an issue with some safety goggles, basically. And we took that back up to the leadership, and there's actually going to be a change in our safety goggle program, and we're switching over to Stoggles as the reimbursed safety protection that we offer all employees. And so people will be able to sign up on the safety management website for their Stoggles that can be purchased through the university for free for the staff. So we're trying to make real change one step at a time based on what the data is showing us. I think though, when we talk to people, the day-to-day changes that people need to make are a two-front approach to safety in my mind. One is you have to consider yourself a leader. There were studies showing that if the attending surgeon washed their hands on the way into a room, every other person behind them also did the same thing. If the attending surgeon did not wash their hands on the way in the room, no one else behind them did either. And so I think everyone has to approach safety as, I'm going to set the tone and I'm going to set an example. And you don't necessarily have to be the highest ranking member of the team to do that. There's always someone watching you and following your example. But then on the other side, we also have to have a team where anyone can stop the line, which comes from the auto industry, right? So I tell everybody in the operating room, please tell me if anything is wrong at any time. I want everyone to be able to say, why are we doing that? Or wait, did we check this? And that's okay. And there's no, punishment for that. And I think that's the kind of culture of safety that we need to have. So it has to be both up and down the line, where everyone sets an example and leads, and everyone also hits the button when there's a problem.
Well, and I think that last point that you made is really important. It's part of the, with hand hygiene, it's clean, remind, thank, right? So yes, clean, but if you didn't clean, if you see someone who didn't clean, you remind them, and then the person who's reminded needs to thank, right? So that's the idea too, right? Even if you're a leader and you forgot to do something and somebody points it out to you, to build that culture where you're actually appreciative that somebody pointed out to you, right? You don't take offense to it.
Yep. Say, oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that communication piece and the timeliness of the delivery of that communication is really, really critical too, and helping to change the culture, because we're invested in helping and supporting. But at the end of the day, employees have to report, and then we have to follow through and then provide that information back to them, right? And timely and efficiently. So really getting that message out there, and then all of the different communication pathways that we've already engaged upon. Lauren talked about many of them with our Sharps champions and newsletters that we send out, and just sharing that information and being completely transparent about where things are really creates more of that awareness. And when people know what's going on, then it becomes a little bit more front and center for them to really start to make a difference. And then that becomes, it's individuals catch on and they see what someone else is doing, and then they do the same. So that's kind of where we're focused.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your expertise with us today. If you want to learn more about Sharps Injury Prevention Program, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
All right, it's time for the lightning round, when we ask one of our guests 4 quick-fire questions that they haven't seen before. Tom, you lost a game of tic-tac-toe before the show, so you're going to be in the hot seat today. You ready to go?
All right, yeah, let's do it.
So if you weren't living your best life here at Michigan Medicine, what would you consider a dream job?
Oh, man, if you ask my wife, she'd probably say I'd be some kind of rancher down in Texas with 1,000 head of cattle and just being outside. Yeah, so that probably would be it.
Have you ever done that type of work?
Yeah, we have a small little hobby farm at home in Manchester. Yeah.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, it's National Waffle Week, so I need to know, what's your breakfast go-to? Is it waffles, pancakes, French toast, something off the board?
Oh, good question. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was a French toast guy all the way. But now in my older years, I have to say I go with the pancake. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go waffles because they already have like the holder for your syrup. It's perfect.
Yeah, they take too much time to make. Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, with fall finally setting in, what is your favorite season of the year?
Oh, fall by far. Yeah,
But
football, weekends, leaves changing. It's cool outside. Yeah, I love the fall.
Not as many bugs out. That's my
That's
favorite.
true too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, who would you say has been the biggest mentor in your career?
Oh gosh, I've had several. There's been a couple of individuals that I've worked with here at the University of Michigan that have really helped to mentor me. Ken Bandy is one of them. I worked with him for 15 years at Home Care Services and really helped to kind of set the table for me and engaged with me and really introduced me to a lot of individuals that helped to really move my career forward. So I'm really thankful for the work he did.
thank you so much, Tom, for playing along and for
Yeah.
sharing so much insight into the Sharps Injury Prevention Program and everything related to it. Once again, if you want to learn even more, go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
All right. And while you're at Headlines, you'll find other important stories from this week, including recognition of our physician assistants during PA Week and our PFANS colleagues for Healthcare Food Service Workers Week. Find all that and more at mmheadlines.org.
Okay, Dan, since we asked Tom and threw him into the hot seat to reflect on his favorite thing to eat for breakfast, why don't you go ahead and share yours?
Yeah, so I'm not a big breakfast person. I sort of spoiled this answer already because I chastised Tom for not answering waffles, but I do. It typically happens if like there's like free hotel breakfasts, they have the little waffle maker. Like I will get that every single time because it's got those little holders for your syrup already built into your. The waffle itself is a vehicle to sugar. I'm going to put it that way, and I like it. So I'm going to go with waffles. What about you, Lilia?
I'm a cereal girl, whether it's for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I don't think we're ever too old to have cereal, but typically a breakfast is just 2 or 3 cups of coffee for me.
That's fair. I actually don't usually do breakfast. That's why I said waffles, like when I'm at a hotel or something. I have no appetite in the morning. I can't do it. So yeah, I'm with you. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much to Tom and Lauren for joining us. And thanks, as always, to all of our listeners and viewers for everything you do for patients, families, and each other. We'll see you next time.